Hi, my name is Mandy Kellner, and I'm the Provincial Coordinator for the BC Community Bat Program. And this presentation is about developing bat-friendly communities in British Columbia. I'll give you an overview of why I think this is important for our bats, what it involves, and where you can find more information. Okay, to start with, I'd like to remind you that our BC bats really are amazing. Here in BC, we have the most diverse bat fauna in Canada, and we have 15 out of 17 species here in the province. And there's an additional 2 species that are not confirmed breeding here yet. So potentially 17 species to consider. And all of these bats are insectivorous. So they eat insects, also spiders, and one species eats scorpions. They all use echolocation to hunt and find their way around. They're all capable of using torpor, which is lowering their body temperature to save energy. And they can do this daily or they can do this seasonally. And in the winter, of course, that's hibernation. Most of our bat species hibernate in the province, which is something a lot of people don't know. And we do have a couple of species that migrate to warmer climates, which can be a distance of thousands of kilometers. Now, I just want to touch quickly on two aspects of bat life history that are very interesting, but do lead to conservation concern. So first, given their small size, they are incredibly long-lived, with little brown myotis in the wild living to be over 30 years old. And secondly, they're also very slow to reproduce, with most of our species having only a single pup per year. And given that they need to survive the winter, they often have high mortality in that first winter. Now, bats are not only interesting, but they're also very important. They're the major predator of night-flying insects in BC, so they are vital to our ecology and our economy. They prey on forest, agricultural, and urban insect pests. And although we don't have a number for the value of their ecological services in BC, drawing from work in the United States, their value to agriculture has been estimated at about 23 billion US dollars per year for pest control services. So they really are essential to the way we live right now. So consider hemlock looper, cucumber beetle, stink bugs, leafhoppers, all sorts of pests that get eaten by bats. And then there's the pests like mosquitoes, with little brown myotis eating up to 600 mosquitoes an hour. Pregnant females can eat 70 to 100% of their body weight per night in insects. That's a lot of insect eating. Now, the bad news. Most bat populations are threatened. About half of BC bat species are at risk, some at a provincial level and some at a federal level. New threats are leading to new assessments of bat status, and the number of species considered at risk is unfortunately only likely to increase in the near future. So why are so many species at risk? Bats, like many of our wildlife, do face a huge variety of threats, including habitat loss and degradation from urban and agricultural development and forestry. And other threats include direct and indirect harm from humans, direct mortality at wind farm, predation by cats, and on top of these, add on white nose syndrome, which is a fatal fungal bat disease. White nose is the biggest threat faced by many of our bat species in BC in the near future. It's a skin infection caused by a fungus introduced from Europe. So it affects bats during hibernation, and it doesn't affect humans or any other animals that we know of. Originating in the the northeast of North America, you can see the spread map in the lower left, and it's spread west across the continent, killing millions of bats and 80 to 100% mortality for some populations. Basically, it causes the bats to wake up from hibernation, groom off the fungus, using up their limited fat resources, and the bats will die from lack of energy. Now, the right-hand map shows where the fungus and disease has been confirmed in Washington state, just south of our border. At present, it's known to be about 100 kilometers from Victoria, 120 from the lower mainland border, and from Osoyoos. So that easternmost dot is actually in the Okanagan and Columbia river systems. If you want to read more about white nose and the spread of the disease, I would encourage you to check out whitenosesyndrome.org. It's a website full of information about it. So with all these threats, how can we help bats? We at the Community Bat Program are proposing that local bat-friendly communities can be an effective way to help bats by building resilient bat populations that will survive in the face of diverse threats and ensuring bats continue to have all the habitats necessary to support them. So what does a bat-friendly community look like? It would be somewhere where the government and general public have increased awareness and knowledge about bats, including the risks that bats face and the habitats they need. They would have knowledge of best management practices that benefit bats, from the things one person can be doing to actions that a town can achieve. And finally, a bat-friendly community would ultimately consider and incorporate bats and bat habitat in conservation planning and actions. So to this end, we've gathered ideas and examples of the many things we can do to be bat-friendly in this guidebook. And the topics range from conserving wildlife trees and bat-friendly gardening to light pollution and its effects on bats, all sorts of information. And we've also developed our certification program to help communities become more bat-friendly. The program is for local stewardship groups or municipal governments, or really pretty much anyone who is interested in their own natural environment and working on local conservation opportunities. It requires local bat champions to take the lead and identify and protect bats and bat habitat. So an initiative to become bat friendly will definitely be supported by the BC Community Bat Program. We provide a framework for this process and guidance materials, including the Bat Friendly Communities Guide that I mentioned, a primer on becoming bat friendly. We can help you get information on local bats, and we have assorted outreach educational materials that you can share within your community. The Bat-Friendly Community process asks you to consider three components. The first is to protect, enhance, or create bat habitat. The second, provide information about bats. And the third, promote learning. I'll discuss each briefly. So first, habitat-based work ensures that bats have the habitats they need for food, shelter, and water. Again, as I mentioned, this is going to help build resilient populations and support surviving bats after white nose syndrome. And this component has large overlap with what many local governments are already working on through a variety of processes, including protection of wetlands and riparian areas. The second component is providing information, and specifically providing our best management practices for bats in human structures, which helps protect both bats and humans. And a bat-friendly community will cooperate with City Hall to make the best management practices info available to both homeowners and industry. The final component is to promote learning about bats, to counter the myths and misinformation that lead to unnecessary persecution. And so we ask you to share correct factual information and resources and to highlight the importance of bats economically and as ecosystem components. And we suggest that there are two main anchor points when you can do this work. So in spring, when bats are first showing up on the landscape, there's Bat Appreciation Day, which is April 17th. And then in the fall, the week before Halloween, October 24th to 31st, bats are beginning to leave to go hibernate. And also a great time to talk about bats and bat conservation. So we do have a ton of educational resources that we can share to help you with this component. So that's what we're asking people to do. And there are 3 communities in BC that have officially addressed these components and become bat friendly as of March 2020. That's Dawson Creek, Peachland, and Richmond. We also have a number of communities that are in progress and working on different aspects of the program. The approach and emphasis in each of these places has been quite different and highlights the local interests and projects of the people that live there. And I think the main message is that there are many different paths that can be taken to address these component areas, and you can tailor the program to your own local interests to a large degree. The efforts are driven by your local bat advocates, as I mentioned, and of course the end result should be the same, with a better understanding and appreciation of bats and their bat habitats, and a local plan to support and monitor bat populations. In another presentation, the examples from the field, you can learn about some of the actions that these towns are taking and hopefully get inspired by them. So for organizations, individuals, or local governments that are interested in learning more and joining us and becoming bat friendly, the first step is to get in touch. We have regional coordinators across the province that can support you, or you can get in touch with me directly. We ask that you read the supporting documents that we provide, then team up to form a group and adopt bat-friendly practices. So for example, in Peachland, this team was led by a local established stewardship group. And finally, we ask that you communicate your approach and actions to the Community Bat Program and discuss formal certification. And we do encourage you to get in touch, to get up-to-date info, check out the guidance documents, and work together to figure out how to adopt bat-friendly practices in your community. So in closing, I just want to mention that our program is supported by a variety of key funders, which are shown here, and many regional supporters across the province. I really do hope you'll consider investigating how you can become more bat friendly and perhaps even think about certification for your town or city. If you want to find out more about the steps, contact me or your local regional coordinator. And of course, you can always find the background information and how to get in touch on our website, which is bcbats.ca. Thank you for your time.